I'm going to tell you what these mean. Alright guys, alright, you know that. Can I get my thumb in, like? So we're talking home light bulbs here. That's an E27 fitting. But I'll just tell you them in order. Lumens, this is the brightness, and they're saying it's 1521 lumens. That's really good, because lumens is actually really what you want, in my opinion. Usually it matches the power almost exactly, but you know, the ratio's almost the same. So, because normally these sort of light bulbs, GLS ones, which are the standard ones for your ceiling light and that, usually they're about 800 or 900 lumens. So this being 1500, that's a big claim. But it's a bit like car mileage though, you know. You don't know if you actually get that, but it does seem to be. And I'm saying that because the power's 13.5 watts, whereas typically in an LED light, and this is LED, typically it's around about 7.5 to 10 watts. And so really I don't think they'll get that brightness out of that. Home Bargains seem to have went for realistic thingy, and they've just upped their power. Power is volts times amps. Watts is volts times amps. 13.5 watts, so that's big for a LED lit bulb. Usually they're about 7.5 to 10. Really it's lumens you're going for. I mean, I'm sure over time they'll find ways to get more lumens out of per watt, but for the moment, I think Home Bargains are being realistic, going for 13.5. This is the old incandescent bulb equivalent, you know, because we used to have 100 watt bulbs in our ceiling lights and that. And so that's why they're saying that. I wish they would just do away with that now, because it's confusing everybody. This is probably the main confusion. It says up to 15 years. It probably does, actually. This is important. Well, this bit, E27. That's an Edison screw, 27 millimeters across. I don't know if it means that or right across. But, you know, if you buy the wrong fitting, that's you. GLS, that's the shape of it. I thought it meant globe sphere or something like that, but it actually means General Lighting Service. And I suppose because it's so old, about 100 years, it's a pear shape. I suppose this is what they put in their, maybe even their streetlights 100 years ago, you know, although they probably used a bayonet cap in Britain. So that's what that means. It's the shape of the bulb. And this one's non-dimmable. And then this is quite important, it's your colour temperature, whether you want a blue white or a yellow white. If it's yellow white, which is warm white, you're down at 2500 Kelvin. As you go up to 6000, you're getting near a blue, which is a whiter white in my opinion. I prefer it. I would call this cool white, actually. They're calling it daylight. Apparently the four colours at the moment are warm white, which is a yellow white at 2500, natural, which is around about 4000 I think, daylight around about 5000, and then cool, which is around about 6500. So I'll just repeat stuff, you know. So it's the fitting is the most important bit, I guess, because it doesn't need to be this shape as long as the fitting fits. Although you can get an adapter if you bought the wrong one. Like this one from IKEA, that's a Edison screw 27 in the inside, and it's to fit a bayonet cap fitting. These were 2 for £3 currently, January 24, and it's called Copla. This Copla is the brand name adapter. Because there's a bayonet type. This is a B22, which is the standard of this thingy. So if you're looking for if you're in the Home Bargains and you forgot or whatever, you should write them down, really, granny. You should. But this is a B22 and it means 22 millimeters across here. I don't know if it's between that and that. I don't know. Maybe right across. And this is 27 millimeters, E27. So you know that if you know what type you're wanting, you know that as long as it's in the 20s, 22 for a bayonet, 27 for an Edison. I think some Edisons now are 26 fitting, but I'm not sure, but they might both fit the same fitting. But yeah, you're don't confuse yourself, Granny. You need to write it all down before you go to Home Bargains. I've got one of these lights in this table light, so just to show you, these are fantastic lights. These, I really like them because for two reasons. One reason is they're really bright. I don't think you'll get any brighter on the market really. 15,000 lumens, as I say. Note that down. That's what sort of lumens you're wanting. 1500. Said 1000, I don't know. 1500. And yeah, and 13.5 watts. And I like the colour, the cool white, the blue white. I'm not a warm white fan. In the UK, I don't think you'll get a better deal than Home Bargains, you know. £6 for two, so £3 for one, but you need to buy two. But I don't think you'll even beat that online. I don't know if the prices have suddenly jumped up or if I was being unrealistic for expecting to get them around £2 online. But I couldn't see anything, so these are great value, not just because of that, but because of the brightness you're getting. 1500, like the other types, if you check them, they might be at 800 lumens, so you're getting double the brightness or something with this. It's probably because they've pumped up the power, 13.5 watts. And so I'll just take a look and sort of repeat myself. So, first of all, you want the right fitting. So this is an E27, an Edison screw, 27 millimeters. That's across here apparently. They must be talking about down here because it doesn't look 27 millimeters to me. It's around there, I suppose. I don't know. Are they talking here? Anyway, 27 millimeters. There's only really two common Edison screw sizes. 27 millimeters you could call the large, and 14 millimeters the small. So it's very unlikely for a big table light or a ceiling light that you'll be wanting E14. I think you'll be wanting E27, but E14 is the small one, and this is the big one. I'll take a look at the bayonet one to see if it's 22 millimeters. Well, that looks across there. They're probably talking about the fixture rather than the bulb, I suppose. You know. Alright, I'll just look at this again. So that means global sphere. No, it doesn't actually. It means general lighting service. Probably something, because it was probably the most common by far that the shape, the pear shape that they had during 100 years ago and 50 years ago. You know, the pear shape, that's the actual shape of the thing. It's nothing to do with the fitting part. The fitting part is Edison 27. So this is the fitting part. Edison screw. A screw bulb. And it's a pear shape. It's a general lighting service shape. They should call it globe, in my opinion, you know. But I mean, the smaller ones are referred to as golf ball usually, in shape. And okay, let's look at what else. We've got a nice blue white, 6,500 Kelvin. So if you wanted warm light, it'd be down at sort of 2,500 Kelvin. That's the yellow light, the yellow white. It's non-dimmable. It's mercury free. There, I'm telling you, colour temp, 6,500 Kelvin. CRI, I don't know what that means. Warm up by less than 1 second. Doesn't really matter, does it? You can wait 1 second, can't you? Lifetime, I mean, 15,000, that's probably your whole life, really. Take it to mean hours. On off, 40,000 times. I mean, these things are becoming sort of permanent, really. You buy one and you're still using it 50 years later. Well, PIBAOGO, that can be quite important, you know. 220 degrees. Even though they've used this pear shape, it's just an LED inside and it's probably just flat. But it's sort of scattering because of this shape. I mean, in incandescent bulbs, they needed to be sealed because they have a gas in them to stop the light thing from burning out. But you don't have gas in these LED lights. I mean, I could take that off. It's probably glued on. Some of them are screwed on here, I think. But yeah, you don't need that on, but it gives you a sort of, takes away the glare, probably spreads the light out across the room and that. You know what I'm trying to say, don't I? And then there's your voltage. Yeah, these are always at mains voltage, really, 240. So granny, I'm saying get yourself to Home Bargains. I don't think you can beat this in terms of lumens and, well, the wattage has gone up a bit, but it's only a tiny bit. You know, 13.5 watts is a lot less than 100 watts in the old days, you know. And there's your energy rating. I take it when you get down here is the worst. So they're saying it's not that good really, but 14 kilowatt hours per 1,000 hours. So if you had this light on for 1,000 hours, you would use 14 kilowatt hours, which is probably about, I think electricity is about 27 pence per kilowatt at the moment. So yeah, 29 pence maybe. Gas is about 9 pence per kilowatt at the moment. So, you know, we're going through a crisis. So I wouldn't bother about that too much. I mean, it's a lot better than 100 watts in it. Yes, here you go. Here you go, Gran. You can QR code this if you want. I'm saying Gran, but I mean, I've bought the wrong bulb plenty of times myself, you know, so I think this is Home Bargain's own brand, Eluminate, and I can't praise them enough. Because of the packaging as well, all the information they give for you, and the actual bulb itself, which is fantastic for brightness, and well, 13.5 watts isn't bad. It's better than 100 watts. So I'm just showing you right now all that. So there's the fittings, bayonet or screw. So that's the first thing. Because this buying a light bulb is a bit like a comedy sketch, you know, where I want a bulb, please. Bayonet or screw? Screw. Cool or warm? Equivalent to 100 watts, you know, this sort of stuff. So really, now that we're in the LED age, really you should be buying LED bulbs. You shouldn't be buying incandescent at all. I think 100 watts are banned, unless you've got some sort of 200 watt fitting. They'll probably let you, you know, something crazy like that. But 100 watts in general is banned, and so I would rather they do away with rating this. I understand why, because that's what people understand. The old people, very old, I must say, because I mean, I understand 30.5 watts. This just confuses people now, this equivalent thing, I think. You know, it's a bit like inches and centimetres. I've got to learn both for DIY stuff and things, you know. So I'd probably do away with that, but where we are, and you'd just be thinking LED, in which case you're thinking under 1,500 watts, really. No, 15 watts, not 1,500. That's like a heater. 15 watts, you're looking under that for a ceiling light or a table light. Yeah, so, and home watts have been generous at 13.5 watts, because even their old ones, just a year or two ago, I mean, this one's 10 watts. It says it's 806 lumens. So I'm getting double the lumens for this new one, you know. So, yeah, this is saying 1,521. And here's another one from Home Bargains. I mean, these are only about 3 or 4 years old. That was 9 watts, and it's saying lumens 106. So, I mean, that's giving me double the brightness, this new one, apparently, if it's true. So, but that's because they've upped the watts to 13.5. They couldn't get it in 9 or 10 really, so they're being realistic now. Whereas the other shops are still selling them at 8, 9 watts, you know. But like I say, go buy lumens and go for 1,500 at least, I would say. If you get less than that, you know, it's not the end of the day, but really you want brightness, don't you? So I would do away with this equiv, but I understand why, but it looks as if we're probably going to be here now for generations where we're looking at equiv. You know, it's like inches and centimetres. Lumens, this is the most important thing really, I would say. Well, and colour, temperature colour, because those are the two things that you're wanting. You're wanting brightness and the temperature colour. So, in my humble opinion, go for 1500 lumens or 1300s or whatever, you know. Probably you're talking about 13.5 watts or maybe 11 watts, you know. But the usual one is about 850 lumens, and that's because I've went so low on the watts. I've went for about 8 watts. They just can't get the lumens out of it, you know. Because in the end, this is power, you know. Power and lumens are so closely matched. Then you've got colour temperature. That's pretty important, I would say. Traditional one is 2600 Kelvin. The yellow one, which I despise really. I just think it looks really dull. One thing I think, it brings a bit of warmth if you have, say, three cool white ones and one warm white, you know, something like that, a blend to give you a bit of yellow, but not much. I really want cool at the 6K end. And this is what some chart on Bard referred me to as a link. And they were saying 5K is about daylight, 4K is about natural. But really, if you're wanting a really cool white, you're wanting 5 or 6K really. They're saying 4K is natural. Once you get down here, you're down to the yellow end of the spectrum. Yeah, I'm just looking at the types. Incandescent, they're really obsolete now. You can still get them for 20 or 30 watts for, I don't know, table lamps or something, but really, in my opinion, should be on LED now. Halogen, yeah, that's really ancient now as well. I think that's got a gas in it as well. These two have got gas in them. So is fluorescent actually, it's got a gas in it. I think that's on its way out as well. This light I'm using just now is a fluorescent light replacement, which is actually LED. So it's an LED kitchen light. What would you call them? The long ones, long tube. So you can even replace your fluorescent long tubes now. Because at first they went from these two to fluorescent because these were using about, I don't know, half the power. But now we've went to LED because that's using like a tenth of the power of a incandescent 100 watt equivalent or roundabout. So we should all really be using LED now. These don't have a gas in them. That's just for decoration and tradition really. It's the fitting that's important, but you know, but yeah. And so I thought this stood for global, but it just stands for pear-shaped, if you want to think it that way. The shape of the bulb, apart from the fitting. General Lighting Service, probably got that name 100 years ago. Maybe streetlights had bulbs like this, I don't know. And here we go. Edison screw big, Edison screw small. It's millimetres. That's 227 millimetres. That's 14 millimetres. And then if it's a bayonet, then it's the large one is 22 millimetres here, and the small is 15 millimetres. Typically, you know, you probably do get other types, but they'll be specialist types. As I said about equivalent, 100 watts, I would ban this now, this equip stuff. But we need it for the old timers, you know. But I mean, they must be really, really old, you know. It's like people who don't use the internet, I know, because the internet's been around like 30 years or something, you know. It's not a young thing, the internet. So I think they've done away with these lights in 2011 in Britain. So that's 13 years. And power equals volts times amps. If you've got it plugged into the mains, it's 240 volts. So it must be a tiny amp. I don't know. If it's 10 watts, if it was 10 watts, say 240. So that would be like 0.24 amps or something, you know. Because a lot of these new lights use direct current and they only use 5 volts, so they must use quite a big amp, you know. I'm not talking about lighting for your house though, because table lamps even are still using Usually still just plugging into the mains, so 240 volts they're using. Here's some other lights. These are like, did they call this GU10 or something? I don't know what GU stands for. That's Home Bargains again. That's Home Bargains brand. It's 5 watts. It's GU10 and it's cool weight, 6500K. And don't know what, this is probably online about this one. Don't think it's telling me anything. I don't like it when they don't tell you anything because they could be sending you anything, you know. So it's probably not as good as thingy. I wonder if this one's quite old because I felt like in the old days they put metal fins around about here to sort of dissipate heat, but there's not that much heat comes off it because incandescent bulbs, it was 100 watts, but maybe 70 watts of that was heat rather than light. Because when you put electricity through a resistor, which a light really is, or it used to be, you get heat and light really, you know. And so that's why in the old days, if you had 4 incandescent bulbs, it might be quite a warm room because you're actually getting about, I don't know, 360 watts of heat from the bulbs. Whereas the LED ones, they hardly emit any heat. I don't think they're resistors, they're diodes. Light emitting diodes, so they don't have as much wasted energy, and that's why they're so good at giving light and not heat. So you're not going to get heat in the room from these really background heat. Here's another one I found. This will be an E27, so I could put this in my ceiling light. And I think this is from, I get a feeling it's from Home Bargains, maybe this is their old name. It's 10 watts. Maybe it isn't from Home Bargains. But the thing about that is that's a sort of spotlight because of the shape. So that's not a GLS one like that, because GLS really means pear-shaped. This is a sort of spotlight shape. I don't know where I got that from really, but it's E27. So for you sitting in your house, you're bothered about brightness and colour. And so colours in Kelvin, this is cool white. The higher up, the more it's blue. And that's an excellent lumen brightness, 1500. Technically, you need to know the fitting. It's E27, that's the most important bit. Although you can get an adapter if you want. And then, to get that sort of brightness, you'll probably have to be up 13.5 watts, around about. And sort of ignore that really, because that's the old days, the old incandescent light. That's what we're talking about. So you can get your bearings, you know. I also meant to say, check the light fitting to what it can take as well, because with this table light, it can take a maximum of 40 watts. So this bulb's 13.5 watts, so that's fine. But then some people might get confused because they think they've got an 100 watt equivalent. They'll be getting confused. It can take 40 watts, and with LED you'll be down at under 15 watts really, mostly. So 13.5 watts, this will be no problem for it. So that's another thing you have to consider, how much this can take, because what I've found, if you put them into, say a bulb, say if I put 100 watt in here, probably the fitting would melt up there. So that's not a good thing, you know. Yeah, that would probably melt, and it could be a fire brigade issue, you know. So you really want to be under whatever the recommended. Usually the light fittings will say this somewhere. On ceiling lights, I would imagine they're still 100 watts because of the old days. I don't know about new builds, but yeah, so it's saying here I can put in a GLS or a golf ball. So that's another thing to consider. But for most days, LEDs are use so little wattage now. This is 13.5. That'll probably not be an issue now, as long as you're not doing something really crazy.